Help us, O God, to be masters of ourselves so that we can become the servants of others. Take our lips and speak through them, our minds and think through them. Take our hearts and set them on fire for Christ's sake. Amen. Thank you, Paul, for inviting me back to be with you again this morning. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with your Stewardship Committee again this year, or throughout this year. I'm even more grateful to Ann Davidson for her warm hospitality and her chauffeuring talents, although she almost killed us on Friday.
Now.
I was also wondering if that last hymn was because you were having a visiting preacher here, come unknown traveler. In an article titled From Stewardship to Generosity, Methodist Bishop Robert Schnees wrote, "Generosity is an aspect of character. It is an attractive quality which I aspire to and desire to see cultivated in my children." Those words spoke to me the last couple of weeks, for it beautifully states a truism about generosity. Our character can be defined as generous or self-serving. We can reach out to others for the community's well-being, or we can reach out to others for our own way to serve ourselves. Generosity takes persistent cultivation, for it is more in our nature, I believe, to be self-centered and protective of our resources. My wife and I have a little deck in our place, and over it we have hanging a hummingbird feeder. And we started this about a year ago, and when we started it, just one hummingbird would come, and then a second, and then pretty soon we were getting 3 or 4, and then a half dozen, and then a dozen. We were going through that simple syrup like they had become addicted to it. I mean, we were filling that hummingbird feeder about every 3 days. Until one day, this dominant hummingbird came and decided that the feeder was only for him, or her, but probably him, and was for his special friends. And he would shoo all the others away. And I will tell you, those beaks look a little dangerous. And so we didn't go through as much hummingbird syrup. But it struck me that it spent almost the entire day protecting its syrup, instead of letting others come and use it freely, and instead of going off and seeing other parts of South Pasadena. Now, some might not think that's worth seeing, but there are some nice areas, and the hummingbird was always right there on our deck. I found the opposite of that hummingbird story in a story that Father Gregory Boyle, the founder of Homeboy Industries, writes in his book, Tattoos on the Heart. In 1993, he was sent to this prison island off of Mazatlan as part of his preparation to become a Jesuit priest. He describes the island as a horrific place where the food was so bad that to call it gruel would have been a compliment. He lost 40 pounds while he was there. They tortured and mistreated the prisoners so badly that if one caused trouble, tried to escape, you couldn't escape off the island, but you could get out of the fenced-in area. If one tried to escape and was captured, they would beat them in front of the other prisoners, and the other prisoners would get fed even worse food as a general punishment. got to know one inmate, Beto, who is quite mischievous. And Boyle writes of him as, quote, always longing to dance right near the ledge of danger and dangle himself there in defiance of all reason. One day, Beto invited Boyle to join him just outside the fence of the warden's garden. Beto jumps over the fence and steals all sorts of wonderful vegetables. Then he jumps back over the fence, and Beto and Boyle run into the woods. He also produces, Beto does, an iguana, which he slaughters and prepares to cook. He has a pot and fills it with water from a well and throws the iguana in this hot water along with some vegetables that he's stolen. Boyle writes, as the smoke from lunch makes its way beyond the trees to inside the prison fence, we begin to receive visitors. Another colono or inmate shows up and asks what we're up to. I watch Beto to see how he'll treat the intrusion. He tells the old man, we're making caldo de iguana. Join us. Boyle writes, I'm moved by the ease with which Beto lets this guy in and smoothly adds some water to the pot. The man tells us that he has something back in his dorm room and in short order appears again with a small ball of crumpled newspaper. He peels it back to show a clump of coarse salt. And Beto puts that in the stew. Shortly, another uninvited inmate shows up, and Beto adds again to the simmering pot some accommodating water and some more vegetables. This inmate does the same retrieval and comes back with a safely guarded ingredient. This time, it's slightly shriveled jalapeno pepper. It's diced and added to the mix. Others arrive in the same way until maybe there are 8 of us, Boyle writes, when the meal finally gets served. Plenty to go around and just as tasty as it could be. He notes iguana does taste like chicken. Everyone brought his flavor to this forbidden pot of iguana stew, and keeping anyone away and excluded was unthinkable to this band of prisoners. Alone, they didn't have much, but together, they had a pot full of plenty. I was thinking of titling my words this morning, Are you a bird brain or an iguana stew? Those are the options. Do we act like the hummingbird that won't share the bounties she's found? Or do we believe in the idea of a pot full of plenty where all can share? Generosity isn't about our resources, just our resources. Again, quoting from Bishop Schnees, there are generous spirits, generous souls. People are generous with their time, with their teaching, with their love. It sounds more organic, more generative, less legalistic, less formal than stewardship. I have to explain to my teenage sons what stewardship means. They know generosity when they see it. We all know generosity when we see it, and we know when we are living generously, and when we are holding too tightly onto that which we have. Can we be like Beto in Gregory Boyle's story and dance on the ledge and dangle our feet over the vast ocean of generosity? In fact, are we going to do Beto one better and jump in to that warm sea of generous living? Can we leap in and invite others to join us? Wow, what a difference that would make in our lives and in the life of St. Mark's. Today's gospel is a story of an ungenerous judge and a persistent widow. In it, we see that persistent pays off. The Reverend Christine Rockwell, whose reflection is in your bulletin, wrote in that reflection, "One of the most valuable lessons I have learned over the years is that in order to be successful as a steward, I need to persevere as I approach charitable giving, just as I need to persevere in the many other facets of my life." Taking one stab at my annual pledge amount or making a pledge to begin proportional giving won't get me to the goal of being generous with the gifts God has given me, unless I stick with it and stick with that goal. I wish I could say that I've been successfully persistent in my generosity, but to be honest, I've fallen short. I've not always been as welcoming as I could have been. I certainly haven't been as forgiving as I could be. There have been times when I've chosen a sarcastic comment rather than an encouraging one. Sarcasm is a strong element of humor in my family, and I'm pretty good at it. My wife and I give about 8% of our income to the church. We thrive and strive to increase that giving, but 8% is where we are right now, after some challenging financial times. I know other people who give less, and many others who give 10 to 20% of their income to the church. In all those cases of the people who give generously of their income, I know them to be generous in their lives as well. They are fun, creative, forgiving, spirit-filled people. Like Bishop Snase's sons, I know generosity when I see it. This has been a challenging year for many of us. Every day we see on television, hear on the radio, or read in a newspaper or on the internet stunning examples of meanness. There has been precious little to encourage us to live generously. But we must persevere. John F. Kennedy finished his inaugural address on January 20th, 1961, with these words: "With a good conscience our only sure reward, with history the final judge of our deeds, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking God's blessings and God's help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own." That is still true. We are called to carry out God's work in our church, in our community, and in our world. That requires action, and it requires generosity. Whoever we are and wherever we are in our journey in faith, we are called to live generously, giving our energy and our financial resources to further God's work. Please join me and so many members of St. Mark's in persevering, in living, and giving generously. Amen.